What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on today, brother?
The energy is off the charts in here for this one. This is a late night one, but we're ready for it. Mikal Bridges just dropped 31, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we want to do it late. I knew it was going to be an entertaining game, watching your Suns, in a little bit of a battle without Booker. Uh, but you guys had players who stepped up today, and that was an impressive win for the Suns. I'm not going to lie. Momentum was way against them.
Yeah, I was texting you all day. I was pretty nervous, but they came out firing in the first half. And, Brad, we got a playoff series, man. We got a bunch of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, Tyson, like we've teased it, man, it's going to be NFL draft heavy on this one, but we're in the midst of a really good NBA playoffs so far. It's been spectacular. So Tyson and I will update you real quick and just give you a little idea of where we think the series is going to go before we get all the way twisted over into the NFL draft stuff. But Tyson, I mean, your Suns now up 3-2, going to have a chance to close it out in New Orleans, going to have a chance to close it out in Phoenix if necessary in game 7. It's a little tighter than we thought, but hey, man, the Suns are sitting in a good driver's seat position here.
Yeah, and I think that this Pelicans team is hitting as hard as they can. And eventually, I mean, we've seen this. It's like a time proven thing. Unless you're the We Believe Warriors or somebody like that, these young teams come out firing and they for a couple games, take it to the best team in the league. And then, it'll go 6-7 and the first seed ultimately is fine in the second round. They go on and win in 5. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in Phoenix, but this young Pelicans team, I have no idea how Zion is watching this team just fight their heart out against the number one team in the league, number one team in like 20 years, based on like the wins above the rest of the league, and not trying to get out on the court. I mean, how many Instagram videos and stuff do we have to watch of this dude, throwing down 360 between the leg dunks and then have to hear that his foot's still banged up?
It's something organizationally. I don't know. It's something weird. Maybe his stepdad. I'm a huge Zion guy. Obviously Duke fan, but I mean, something's weird going on with that stepdad situation where he's just like this controlling helicopter parent. I don't know what's going on with that, but like you said, I mean, there's a blueprint for it, and we say it all the time. Like we've seen this before in so many different playoff scenarios. Suns best team in the league all season. Got a little injured in the playoffs. Young upstart team, kind of playing with house money. They could run out of steam eventually, and then the best team in the league, they figure it out and roll after they were tested a little bit. It feels like that's the blueprint the Suns may follow. I know it looks like they're going to be in a matchup with the Jazz or with the Mavs next, with Luka back and healthy, and they look really good. I think we may be giving the Jazz a little too much credit right now, but we'll break that down as or the Mavs a little bit too much credit right now, but we'll break that down going forward. Um, what besides your Suns, obviously, Tyson? I mean, what's the other series that we have that's tight that's you're going to really be keeping your eye on?
I mean, like this Grizzlies Timberwolves series is perfect. Like this is, the Grizzlies are really lucky to be playing the T Wolves right now,
Yeah,
because I think most other teams in the playoff field would have gotten the Grizzlies out of there by now. But Memphis is fighting, and John Morant is just must watch TV. Our boy Ant Man with the corner
mm-hmm.
three today for the tie. He's looking like he's a primetime performer. Karl Anthony Towns, as much as we get after him here on the pod, has had some really good moments in this series. This one is just feels like this one's going to go 7 to me. I think that Minnesota goes home, takes care of business, and then we got a game 7 in that one.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, I think, for them to get off the mat. I mean, for this one, I mean, they fought their heart out. Should have won. Should have won 2 of these games. Honestly, Minnesota should have won this series already. If you think about it, um, I don't know how they respond. This team, Ant's a little banged up. I mean, he played well today. We know that these Timberwolves aren't the mentally strongest with Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. We'll see. This may have been the moment where the Grizzlies, all right, we got the kind of the monkey off our back. Let's go close this thing out. Let's shut them up. Let's move on to the next round. I'll have probably a pick. I mean, coming up as we get closer to that game, but it has been a absolutely spectacular series, Tyson. Just must see TV, and I can't believe they started it out on NBA TV. Somebody finally got on the memo that maybe it should be on the Turner broadcast. So I'm glad somebody slipped them that note.
It's got to be a time zone thing because it's like, what are you doing? For most of these games, it doesn't make any sense. But Brad, the best first round series is your Atlanta Hawks. No, I'm just kidding.
My Atlanta Hawks, yeah. Well,
But
they're just bored during the regular season.
yeah, you think they're still bored?
Well, they're gonna be bored in Cancun soon.
Maybe. But you posted a nice little Instagram video today about the Celtics Nets. That was everyone's go-to series for round one here. Why don't you just give a quick little synopsis of what that video was about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I think everybody was shocked that the Nets were swept. A lot of people had the Celtics in the series. A lot of people, thought the Celtics were a better team. I thought the Nets would get this one done. Everybody's kind of coming together. It's a series. It's tough to beat what I presumed was the best player in the world, or the best duo in the world, 4 times out of 7. Kevin Durant didn't show up. He had so many turnovers. He was passive. He was pushed around. Honestly, he's had this body type his entire career. It looked like this was the first time in a long time it really came back to bite him. I mean, couldn't do anything physically. The Celtics just manhandled him. And Jason Tatum, man, oh man. I mean, I forget who the commentator was who said it. Maybe it was Grant Hill or Reggie or somebody, but he was like, the mismatch we always thought was Kevin Durant. It's like Jason Tatum's like doing what Durant's done, but like way more explosive because Jason Tatum's a better athlete than Kevin Durant. And now he's just burying shots from deep. So when Kevin Durant is not the superstar for the Nets, that's an issue. Combine that with the fact that Kyrie Irving is uncommittal, not just as an organizational player. On the court, it didn't even seem like he could commit to the game. You have major issues for the Nets. You got to figure out what you're doing moving forward. Do you bring back Steve Nash? How do you want to revamp this roster? You got to figure out what you want to do with Kyrie Irving. That's the main synopsis of that video on Instagram.
And Kyrie with 15, 5, and 5 since that explosion in game one on like 30% shooting. He was horrible. And then he hops into the press conference and he says, I don't have any intentions to leave. I came here to lead this franchise with, and he named the owner and the general manager. Who do you think you are, dude? Ben Simmons waking up in the morning with the sore back and decides he can't play in game 4. It's a disaster in Brooklyn. And this is what we were saying a year and a half ago, is that they better hope they get one because this thing's going to get really ugly really fast. And here we are. Steve Nash is not the coach for this roster. He never was. He looks more like when Kyrie was saying, one day I'll coach a team, one day Kevin will, one day Steve will. Maybe he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because half the rotations don't make any sense. And if Kyrie's going to sit down with the GM, like the roster's already devoid of talent, you got your buddies in here. That didn't work. Blake Griffin's getting 8 minutes. He's the best player on your team for a stretch. Like it's mind blowing, and it's crazy because somebody else is going to try to do that this summer too, and they're going to try to build one of these things. And that era has passed. It came in, and everybody was doing it, and it doesn't work like that anymore, right? Because with no depth, the Heat were really lucky because LeBron is superhuman, doesn't get hurt. You were never without your best player. All of a sudden, KD starts to get a little worn down in Golden State. Clay goes out. Steph's a little banged up. Draymond's a little banged up. They lose, right? And now Harden quits on your team halfway through the year. KD looks like he forgot how to play basketball. It looked like I texted you the 2014 Memphis series.
Oh, yeah.
Is what that reminded me of. And Kyrie, nobody's going to want to play with him. So good luck, Brooklyn. And I think if you're Houston, you feel a lot better about the package you got back for James Harden right now.
Yeah, all very, very valid points. And we're going to have to see. It's going to be an offseason that you and I will definitely be discussing on this podcast, that there's going to be major decisions that need to be decided on from the top down. Ownership has to decide on it before they can even move it down to their front office, before they can even move it down to their coaching and players. Like, major things need to be decided by Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, before we get moving on any of this that we're discussing. What would be a major disappointment, Tyson, and it kind of feels like it's written. The Sixers, all of a sudden, they're in a dogfight series against the Raptors after they went up 3-0 off of Joel Embiid game-winning shot. Kind of tank it down the stretch in game 4. Joel Embiid tears his thumb. But with all that said, they have a chance to go home, close out the Raptors without Fred VanVleet, their best
What a
guard,
sentence! What a sentence that is.
and Doc Rivers. His team just decides that it's basically just a church sermon. They were walking around like it was, a speed walking race. I mean, nobody decided to sprint. Their defensive alignment was horrible. And once again, James Harden comes up small in a playoff series. I told you I had something to say about this. If I'm the Sixers and you're asking me if I'm going to give max money to James Harden or another player, I'm giving a max contract to Jalen Brunson over James Harden. Like, I'm watching Jalen Brunson in this series. What he's doing to the Jazz, he's explosive. He's a good shooter. He's a leader. He plays defense, and he knows how to get by. Like, he's what I want in a max player. Somebody who tries hard and works hard, not to mention the Villanova connection. Or you have James Harden, who I'm just content passing the ball to the corners to Thibault, who can't shoot. Like, how about you score? Like, I'm already frustrated with this. It's been a quarter of the year. I'm ready for Doc Rivers to be out of the city. I'm ready for James Harden to not play for my team anymore. Like, I'm already done with it. I can't believe I'm already driven insane
You're such a Philly
after we
fan.
were up 3-0.
You're such a Philly fan. Do you want to take Jalen Brunson over James Harden?
God, man, I do for some reason. I think it's Jesus. I'm pissed off.
I do agree with the premise, though. I think that if you're Daryl Morey and this is your boy, you fought so hard, you can't not sign him to a max, right? And that's kind of the hole that the Sixers have put themselves in here. Like, if Daryl Morey thinks James Harden is worth what he gave up, there's no shot he gets that back in a sign and trade or something this summer. And the Kings will go out and throw $40 million a year at Harden or something. And at this point in his career, it kind of feels like, James Harden, this is his last hurrah, and he's not even giving a shit.
Yeah, I know. It's
so
crazy.
Maybe the dude's going to go collect a bag somewhere like Orlando or something. But I think you did this to yourself because you, all the season long, every time I brought up the Raptors and how I like the Raptors, you said they stink.
I know. It's coming back on me.
All year long. Does Pascal – how's he doing? He looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's been playing well. It's easy against Tyrese Maxey, who I'm taller than, James Harden, who's a blob, and Matisse Thybulle, who everybody thinks is Scottie Pippen, and he's not. Like, he's Thabo Sefolosha.
But the Sixers will be fine. They are not going to blow a 3-0 lead. They have the best player in the series. They might have the two best, and they have two chances to close it out. I like Philly. I know that your brain is telling you one thing and your heart's telling you the other. I'm not asking you to make a pick here, but I am saying to people listening that might be a little biased coming from Bradley today.
Yeah, that should be like, oh no, Philly's fine. No, I'm an Eagles and a Sixers fan. All I know is pain. Like, I'm watching this and literally my entire timeline of all my Philly fans. Oh no, and I'm like, that's how I feel. It's just an oh no. But look at Tyson trying to talk me off the cliff. I love it, man. He's got my back. See,
we're 6 months away from going into the cliff together here. Once the Eagles, once we get about halfway through the season, that's about the time I'm ready to jump with you.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Last year, I was like, hey, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm not going to get worked up. This year is going to be a different story. I'm ready to bring back my just absolute anger for this NFL season, Tyson.
In that not caring last, I think we got through a quarter before we got all upset over text message.
Yeah,
I don't even know if we made it that far.
No, I think we broke that pretty early. But speaking of the Eagles, speaking of the NFL, we're gonna put a bookmark in the NBA season for now in the playoffs. It's time for the NFL draft storylines, Tyson. It's time for us to start talking NFL draft, getting everybody prepared for Thursday, when we're going to have the first round of this year's draft. Not going to lie, it's been a pretty mellow draft season. I mean, not a lot of buzz. I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of talent at the quarterback position. Mainly the talent in this draft class is at D-line and O-line, not particularly flashy. But I do think there's a lot of good players in this draft class. I think it's a strong draft. I think it's going to be pretty deep as well, based on what I've been reading, some evaluations from a lot of people I trust, and just kind of what I've been hearing from scouts and people who are plugged into this stuff 24/7, saying like, yeah, pretty good names here. Let's go through some storylines for maybe Tyson, the people who haven't been paying attention to the draft. It's not on their radar, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's Thursday. I got to catch up."
Well, it is the biggest draft of all time, right? With that COVID year, so I think a lot of people out there are kind of trying to discount the depth, but I think the reason for that, and I think the biggest storyline with the draft is that there isn't a true alpha prospect or even a handful of them. You know, most years, Penei Sewell would probably be the top drafted tackle. Jamar Chase would have been the top drafted wideout, and those guys weren't like 5 and 6, I think, in their draft last year. Um, Aiden Hutchinson's a really good prospect. Kayvon Thibodeau's a really good prospect. But all of these guys, you know, we're having to talk ourselves into best case scenarios for a lot of guys when most outside of quarterbacks, you know, most 1, 2, 3, and 4 prospects in the draft are going to be plug and play guys. And there are those guys along the offensive line, and there's at least one in the secondary, Sauce Gardner, that is going to be able to get plugged in and play right away. But the level of impact that some of these guys are going to have across their career, at least projected, is going to be less than what you would hope for out of the number one pick or whatever.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of like a high floor, low ceiling on the top end type of draft. You know, like all these guys, yeah, pretty solid. You know, they'll be able to make the special teams. They'll be able to make plays. They'll be able to plug and play, like you said, a few of these guys. But you're not like, man, that guy's going to be wearing a gold jacket, or this guy, ooh, man, he's a can't miss guy. It seems like, oh, you know, they're good, like a really high upside, or you know, he's gonna be good, but it doesn't not a lot to like kind of wet your whistle. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau coming in, we're like, man, this guy's generational. You know, he's gonna be the consensus number one. Now it's like, is he gonna go 8? Like, does he like
That's
football? You know, that's kind of the question about it. And you have Aiden Hutchinson, who's like that typical, like, oh, he's just a hard worker at Michigan. And you're like, oh, he's gonna go 1? It just doesn't feel right in a way. Like, whereas you look at Myles Garrett, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy should go number 1. Yeah, it's got that type of feel to me.
and I think a little bit is prospect fatigue because we're used to a guy like Devontae Smith flying up draft boards his senior year. You know, running back sneaking his way up there. This Kayvon Thibodeau was the number one prospect in high school, all the way to the end of college, and then we get to draft season, and you know we get some personal red flags or whatever that pop up for teams. But the number one wideout in this class was George Pickens. He tore his ACL, so that kind of hurts his case there. I'm talking a year ago. But Brees Hall has been the number one running back prospect in this class for 2 years, right? We've always known Tyler Linderbaum is going to be a great center. You can pencil in Evan Neal, you know, 2 years ago as the guy you thought was going to be one of the top tackles. It's just like people want so badly for there to be a Khalil Mack that comes out of nowhere and tears the world up. And not every season has those. So then we get these analysts trying to talk themselves into this is why Jermaine Johnson should go number 3. It's well, he had one season of 12 sacks, but that doesn't replace an entire career worth of production from some of these other guys. And if you think you can turn that into something, good luck. You know, maybe he's going to be generational, but that's how a lot of really bad teams stay bad.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that all the time in the NFL, right? Arden Key, you know, just going through the list. I mean, the who we'll discuss here pretty soon, Trent Baalke at the Niners, always overreaching for, oh man, this talent's good. He might do it again this year. I mean, who knows? Like, man, that upside's crazy. Let me reach on this. You know, I mean, the Raiders did it. You know, Cleveland Farrell. Um, you know, just a ton of reaches that we see. Like, oh, you know, either it's kind of talk yourself into something through the process because you're starting to interview these guys, you see tape, then you get to the combine, then you have all these decisions and all these different mock drafts out there. I feel like, you know, people kind of talk themselves and outsmart the room a little bit. So, one of the storylines that Tyson that we talked about before we got on here is just such a Jacksonville Jaguar story. And for those who aren't aware of it, the general manager Trent Baalke apparently is enamored with who is it? It's Trayvon Walker.
Yep.
Yeah, Trayvon Walker, who has been flying up draft boards, who is, you know, potentially the number 1 overall pick in the betting market. He's the favorite now. The owner, Shad Khan, wants Aiden Hutchinson, the Michigan guy, a Michigan edge rusher. You know, he's been kind of mocked as number 1 for a long time after the season ended. And then Doug Peterson, the new head coach, who's, you know, he's got some juice, won a Super Bowl. He wants Ike Ekwonu, a really good offensive tackle from NC State. this classic dysfunction, Tyson, with the Jags. Jags, you made a joke. Well, that's why they're picking number one overall again, even though they just drafted a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence last year.
Yeah, and it's I think that if Trayvon Walker doesn't go number one to the Jags, he's going to slide. And I think that tells you everything to know about Walker as a prospect. I think that the tools are there, and the physicality and all. He's got, he checks every box but production, and that's kind of a really important point when you've been the worst team in the league 2 years in a row. I don't know if Trent Baalke has long enough to see Trayvon Walker reach that full potential.
Yeah.
I would take Aiden Hutchinson if I were them, pair him with Josh Allen, and just immediately have a top end defensive bookends there on the line rather than wait a couple years for this guy. And I mean, I don't hate Doug Peterson's idea either. I know they just franchise tag Cam Robinson and Jawan Johnson's at right tackle. Jawan Johnson can't play. Cam Robinson's not going to be there forever. It I personally would take Hutchinson, but if they go Walker here, I think we're talking about the Jaguars with another top 3 pick, and that maybe he reaches his potential, but you don't have time in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean that's a major storyline, and it feels like it's pivoting on what do the Jags do at that pick. If they go Hutchinson, I think, like you said, there could be a lot of different draft boards. If they go Walker, I think we kind of get a more traditional one now that you'll see if you go and Google mock draft. I think it'll fall in place that way. Another storyline is anybody going to trade up in this draft? That's what I'm looking at, Tyson. It hasn't been trade frenzied the past few years. And I feel like we always gone into the draft like, man, there's going to be a lot of movement. And it's like, yeah, there's like 3 trades and they're all in the back end. Like nobody wanted to trade. Because what people forget, it's like, well, this guy could trade up and get a quarterback. It's like, yeah, but somebody wants to get out of that pick. Like, or somebody, I want to trade down. I want to get out of here. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to give you assets to go get that pick. I feel like that's what we're forgetting here. And it's this draft class, quarterback wise, there's nothing that's going to make a team go up and get somebody at a high level. Like, who's going to go up to 3, trade with the Texans, and go take like Malik Willis? Like, I just don't see that happening. I think there could be a little bit of flopping, like one moving, like kind of swapping picks. Okay, because hey, are you taking this guy? Yeah, we are. All right, well, we'll flop with you, and you get him. We'll take this guy after you, something like that. But I don't think there's going to be any crazy movement that I've seen in this draft, Tyson, in the first round at least.
Well, I think, you hit the paradox on the head there pretty good that because it's a weak quarterback class, nobody's going to want to trade up, but because it's a weak quarterback class, those picks cost less, right? And I think Philadelphia is a really realistic trade partner for somebody like if the Jets want to move out of 10. I think Philly with 15 and the draft capital they've accrued are going to trade up from 15 and trade back from 18. That's just my feeling on it at the moment. But everyone wants the Chiefs or the Packers to trade to the top 10 and take Garrett Wilson or Drake London or whoever for the wide receiver position. But this wide receiver class, I think, is so close. The value for those teams is going to be to stay there and see if one of those guys falls. Because if you can get a Treylon Burks at 28 and still have 29, then you might not need to go. Like in my opinion, at least, I don't think it makes sense to go all the way up to 10 unless you really believe that Jameson Williams does have game-breaking speed and he's going to, completely change the offense. And the thing about him, and people keep talking about, oh, his floor is 11. His floor is 11. The teams that you want to trade up for him want to win now. He tore his ACL at the end of the year. I know the reports are he's ahead of schedule, but what's his agent supposed to say?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's going to miss time. Yeah. So I and that gets us into smokescreen season there too.
What's your favorite smokescreen? But I got a couple. I'm not gonna. It's just like, what can you even believe on especially this week? I mean, it's been crazy. What's been a nice little smokescreen for you, Tyson?
Well, I always love when anonymous scouts and general managers put their opinions out there about a player, and it's like we're supposed to trust you that you went and interviewed these guys, and then if you're the ones doing it, put your name on it, coward. Like, come on. Like, it's easy for Bill Polian to say he had a first-round grade on Tom Brady. No, you didn't. You're lying. I think the Matt Corral one, the story of him beating up Wayne Gretzky's grandson or whatever when they were in high school was hilarious because like this is coming out, right? He's been in the national spotlight here for a year and a half, and right before the draft, all of a sudden, that's an issue. It's the red flags that pop up late. Like with some of these guys, we knew personality concerns, right? But then 2 days before the draft, we get personality concerns for others, and it's like, okay, that was leaked by the team picking at 52 because they really
Right.
wanted to get down there.
Yeah, me is the whole Derek Stingley thing now. It's like, and you and I have talked about this because you're a big LSU fan. We've watched Stingley, when he's been on the field. He's great talent. But since he hasn't been on the field, everybody's like, "Wow, his injury concerns, and I don't know how good he is." And now it's like after the entire evaluation process, all of a sudden now, man, Stingley could go as high as 3. It's just like now you're trying to rise him up the board. I have no clue where he's actually going to go. Like, I don't know if they're using this or if it's all real. I think it's a smoke screen. I don't think there's any way the Texans would be dumb enough to take him at 3. But now all of a sudden, Derek Stingley, man, can't miss corner prospect. It's like, weren't you just saying that with Sauce Gardner like 2 weeks ago? Like, that's the type of NFL draft smoke screen that's just hilarious to me.
And the best part about the smoke screens is these teams have known for months what they thought the draft board was. There are going to be like one or two shakeups on draft night that these guys didn't see coming, but like their boards have been set. They've had these things up since these guys were in high school, and then you just get a bunch of people guessing for like 3 months, and then the week before, all of a sudden everybody has sources and everybody knows what's going on. It's like, dude, you had Sam Howell go number 1 a year ago.
Yeah,
Get
him
out
and
of my
Carson
face.
Strong.
Yeah.
All right, Tyson, let's go through some risers. I mean, it's like I said, I mean, I'm a potential riser. Hey, look at Stingley rise up the board. For people out there who haven't been following along, give me a couple risers that you that are on your radar you think will go a little bit higher than people expect.
One I do think actually is Carson Strong. I think somebody's going to talk themselves. The athletic profile is crazy, and the arm strength is nuts. Like this dude, if Jordan Love went 32, this guy has a chance to go in the middle of the second round or early in the second round. I just like if I'm you're going to tell me it's Desmond Ritter or Carson Strong. If I'm an NFL team, I've seen Ritter. I know his weaknesses, and him and Carson Strong are very similar, but Carson Strong just has plus athleticism. And Ritter's an athletic guy, but Carson Strong, like, it's functional athleticism, I think, is the difference because Carson Strong looks to me like he can make off platform throws and really, um, he could take not saying this is what he's going to be, but this is a guy that maybe takes like a giant jump like Josh Allen and really figures out how to play. And then, real quick, one that I'll just throw in
Yeah.
my boy Troy Anderson from Montana State.
Oh, okay.
Started the process like middle of the fourth round. I think he goes early third. Killed the Senior Bowl, put on a show at the combine. Consensus top 100 prospect everywhere. And he played running back, quarterback, and linebacker in college. Started all three at different years. All American, state champion sprinter, all this stuff. And I have a feeling that he's going to go a lot earlier, and people are going to go, well, who is this? He's the Cordero Patterson of defense.
Okay, I love it. I love it. For me, it's Jermaine Johnson. I mean, you had previously mentioned him. D end at Florida State, really, really talented. Has the measurables, super athletic. He's got the size, the arms, the arm length, the hand size, hand fighting. This guy, man, this is a prototypical D end. This is what you look for. I think he's going to go a lot higher than people have thought about. Like everything has been radio silent on him for a long time. Then all of a sudden, stock is rising. They're like, man, like you said, analysts, he might be my number one D end. It's like, how is he just now becoming your number one D end? Have you not been watching film? It's like, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, well, stop thinking about it. I'm not saying he couldn't be worthy of that rise, but I'm just telling you, I think he's going to go a lot higher, and he's going to be a name thrown out a lot, at that top end. Like, man, where's Jermaine Johnson going to end up? That's a name I've kind of been hearing. Like, hey, keep an eye on him. You have another one, Tyson, besides your Montana State boy and Carson Strong?
I'll think of one here. Just give me a second. I threw two in instead of just spacing them out because
No, I
I
didn't
am
know
an
if there's
idiot.
another one that you've been.
I do think that one of the running backs, I'm not sure who, but it's going to be either Zamir White, Damian Pierce, or Brian Robinson is going to find themselves going on day 2 a lot earlier than people think, and maybe even in front of CJ Spiller, who's
Oh,
been everyone's darling. Look, dude, you can't play in the NFL and run a 4.7 and play running back. Like, unless that dude is actually significantly hurt and he's faster than that on the field, he's in big trouble because you can catch it. You can have great hands and you can read, everything. But if you run a 4.7 at running back, if you run a 4.6 at running back, you're cooked. Unless you're Le'Veon Bell, and I don't think he is. But yeah, I think one of those SEC running backs, they're just big, strong, powerful guys that I think could, their ceiling, all three of their ceiling is Nick Chubb, and they're never going to reach it. But that's the prototype of running back that I think NFL teams are more comfortable with than a guy like uh, James Cook, a satellite back.
okay. Um, I like that because this running back class, man, we've heard it so much, like Kenneth Walker and Brees Hall. That's really like all we know. I'm actually intrigued. I didn't do too much digging into this running back class in general, but my last riser here, Jahan Dotson, wide receiver at Penn State, super fast. I've had the pleasure to watch him since he's been at Penn State. I think he could make some noise in the NFL. Speed kills in this league, and if you can run the right route with that speed, a team's going to take a chance on you. And I think this draft class, there's a lot of solid receivers. I think they're going to go pretty early, or there's going to be a lot of them in the first round. He was kind of mocked as like a mid-second, late or early third, mid-second guy. There's some rumblings that he may even sneak into the last part of the first round. I'd be surprised by that, but at least an early second guy here. That's surprising me, just based on everything else. But that's a riser. I'm hearing Jahan Dotson, the burner from Penn State. Fallers for you, Tyson. Who's like, hey, this guy? What happened to this guy? He's really good. Why is he falling out of this draft? And why is he sliding down the board?
Well, I think to play off Jahan Dotson, I'll just start with a couple
Yeah.
wideouts. I think that Traylon Burks and Christian Watson are both going to go later than most people have them mocked. I've been seeing, a lot of Traylon at the beginning. Traylon was always the guy to the Jets at 10. Traylon didn't put on a very good combine performance for what we were expecting. I think he's going to go later than people think. And then Christian Watson from North Dakota State. This dude is skinny Chase Claypool. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. He's got some juice to him and he can move after the catch. But I'm seeing him mocked to the Packers and stuff like that. And I think this is a guy that's going to go in the middle of the second round and probably make a team really happy. But I just don't see, if there's going to be a run on receivers and you're an NFL team, and I know the red flags, but if you're picking George Pickens versus Christian Watson and you have, breakout age, dominator, all this stuff that Pickens is just better than Watson at, I mean, if you're the Bills, right? If like just using them as an example, you're going with George Pickens in that scenario.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I mean, I like Traylon Burks a lot. I think he could be versatile in this league. Christian Watson, so like you said, North Dakota State, so not a lot of people know who he is. Not a lot of people have seen him. I know people who, and I've read like their reports on him and have opinions on him. They think he's the top 3 receiver in this class. They have him graded that way. They think he's going to be. I mean, his ceiling's about as high as Jameson Williams. I don't I just haven't seen it with Christian Watson. I mean, he's probably my 7th receiver if I really had to go down the list like that and really had to make it. Maybe 8th. He's what I think he can be good.
I got him behind Sky Moore from Western Kentucky.
Okay.
Like I would take
He's
Sky
good, man.
Moore. I would take Sky Moore over Christian Watson, and there's no way in the world that Sky Moore finds his way into the first round.
Right. And now they're talking like Christian Watson like you might do that. And I think that to your point, Tyson, would be a mistake for a team to do it. But you see these names, if this receiver class starts coming off the board, I think there might be a reach for a receiver like Christian Watson in this draft.
And it's something to keep in mind too for people out
Yeah.
there. I think we're going to see 2 runs on wide receivers. I think we're going to see a run in the teens, and then I think we're going to see a run in the late 20s.
Okay.
And so the over under I think is 6.5 pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to be 4 and 3, then there's your over. But if you think it's going to be 3 and 3, That's a tough line, man.
Yeah, that's tough. It's 5.5 was so easy, and then they juice up to 6.5. That's tough.
Thanks a lot. Mel Kiper was going on the radio every day saying it was going to be 7.
I know he screwed us, dude. He screwed us. For me, the followers in this class is easy. It's the quarterbacks. Somebody could take them early, but I'm going to go out and say there's only going to be 2 in the first round. A lot of respected people, a lot of respected scouts don't have a single quarterback in this class with a first round grade. That's all you need to know. Malik Willis, tremendous upside, accuracy issues. Kenny Pickett, small, average arm. Matt Corral, tiny frame. I mean, we don't really know about his decision making. It's just not a strong class. I think, we're like, well, the Panthers could take him at 8. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm hoping that these teams are smart enough to realize that that's a stupid fucking idea to take somebody that early when you can just wait. Like, it's fine. And if you don't have them, go get somebody else. Like, it's crazy. I think they're going to be falling in this class. I saw Bucky Brooks mock draft that he doesn't have a quarterback being taken in the first round, which is shocking. But I think the quarterbacks are going to fall in this draft class, and we may not see one picked in the top 16 picks.
Which is a guarantee for Pickett and Willis to not last past Atlanta. um, I do think that Devin Lloyd too is another guy to watch for falling. I think Micah Parsons fucked the game up a little bit because now it's we want a guy. Devin Lloyd's great in coverage and he's really good at getting after the passer. He's okay rushing the passer and he's a good coverage guy, but at Utah he was asked to rush the passer a lot. And if he's your number one coverage linebacker, you'd assume you want him in coverage, right? So it's kind of like that old Sean Lee thing. It was he's a good rusher, but why would we use him for that when he's so good at guarding tight ends and running backs out of the backfield? I think Devin Lloyd's getting a lot of love. I think he's a lot closer to Nakobe Dean than people are giving him credit for. He's bigger, right? But he's still small. He's a little bit on the small side for me for a linebacker. And just watching him on film, I'm not sure that he loves to hit. And if you're going to be little and play linebacker in the NFL, you got to love to hit people. Darius Leonard loves to hit people, and that dude is a beanpole.
Yeah.
I don't think Devin Lloyd's that same type of player, and I think the earliest I could realistically see him going is probably the Patriots. I think they're at 23. I think he's a Bill Belichick mold kind of guy, but he's consistently being mocked 20 or below, and I just don't see it.
I have Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau's going to fall a little bit in this class. I don't think it's a smokescreen, really, what they're talking about. I just don't see, like, Lions could pick him at 2. If Hutchinson's there, I mean, you're crazy not to take him. He just fits like what the Lions are looking for. And then beyond that, okay, are the Texans going to take a guy who may not care about football? I think that's a tough sell in that organization. Then you just kind of run through it. I mean, okay, then at 4, the Jets, like, really? We're going to put him in New York? Okay, Giants, same thing. Really? Him in New York? Carolina, like, I guess you could see that. But, I mean, again, then we're talking about you're falling from 2 to 6. And if that doesn't, we're thinking Carolina may even try to trade out. They may, take a quarterback, which I think would be crazy. I mean, the Giants, again, I mean, they want a lineman, they want an edge rusher, but if other people are available, are they taking Thibodeau? There's a scenario I think he could fall out of the top 10. I would be kind of shocked if he fell that far. But, I mean, we're talking about this guy. I mean, perennial number 1 pick. And I doesn't know if he cares about football. Back up to number 2 in the draft. And I think we had this expectation he may go high. When I think it's going to be more likely he kind of falls, 7, 8, 9 range and that type of pick.
Yeah, I don't think the Seahawks could afford to pass on him at 9. For all the shit talking we just did about reaching on potential, this dude has the production and the potential. I mean, this is what the Jaguars are talking themselves into with Trayvon Walker. Is like maybe he could be Kayvon Thibodeau, and it's kind of ridiculous to me that like this is where we're at with this guy. And if it comes down to it, and these reports are right, and he goes and starts a Twitch stream or whatever, 6 years down the line, then so be it. But this isn't Deion Jordan that you're trading up to get. This is a bona fide. This guy could have played at any SEC school, any Big Ten school, and his numbers would have been the same.
All right, Tyson. So let's go through these top 10 picks real quick and just kind of break down in the top 10, what everybody needs, what the teams are looking for, who we think could go there, who we're kind of who's been rumored to go there, what we know, what our opinions are. So number one, the Jaguars, we've talked about them a lot. And literally, the rumor is that it's going to be Trayvon Walker, the DN from Georgia. It's the Jaguars, and it's Shad Khan and it's Trent Baalke, who are both insane. So that could change. If that happens, obviously that opens up a ton of different possibilities. But the Jaguars, it seems like they are locked in on Trayvon Walker as of now.
Yeah, and they need everything but quarterback and I guess wide receiver. So, they need wide receiver. They just have so much money in that room. This is going to be an edge rusher, and I guess it's going to be Walker.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'd go Hutchinson here. I'd probably even go a no lineman if it's me. If I'm Trent Baalke, I'd take an O lineman here. But it looks like they are enamored with Trent Walker, and they're going to go that way. Lions now there. It seems like from what we're hearing now, Tyson, what we're reading, it's going to be an edge rusher for them as well. Previously, there was a rumor, there was some thought that they could take the cornerback Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati this high. I think that's crazy. But I think for them, it's either going to be Thibodeau or Hutchinson. I think it'd be crazy if they didn't take Hutchinson. Played at Michigan. He's a hardworking kid. It seems to fit Dan Campbell's system. Seems like that's what they want to build there culturally. It feels like this is a home run with Hutchinson. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's personality, right? This is Dan Campbell's guy, and they would. I know they love him over there, but they would put him on a mattress and float him down the river and never see him again if he passes on Hutchinson here.
Um, Now 3 Texans. Here's where it gets interesting. I think
This is Thibodeau for me.
this is Thibodeau for you. That's an interesting. I think
I don't think Casario is going to do it, but I don't think
you would
Texans are
take
going to
Thibodeau
be.
though. If you're Cassari, you're like, hey, we got Thibodeau. Boom.
I don't think the Texans are going to pick here. That's my
Okay.
prediction for the draft. I don't know. I think somebody is going to come up and take this off Houston, and I don't know. Maybe it's a team like the Jets that are going to throw a fourth and then a third round pick in there, make the swap worth it. But the only two things I know for sure on the Texans is they need everything and they need a lot of it. And so I just with the new regime and the way they're going to try to run things, Patriot style is the phrase that we're hearing over and over again. I I don't think that this is the draft to find a franchise changer at 3.
If they're smart, they trade out of this. If they're staying, I'm picking offensive tackle here. Probably Evan Neal from Bama. Seems like he's the best one. Maybe Kwanu. That to me that feels like a reach, but it's Neal or Aquano for me here if I'm in charge of the Texans. I agree with you though. I'm trying to trade down. What I expect them to do, I don't know if there's going to be any suitors. I think they're probably just going to go best player available because, like you said, they need a ton of stuff. I think reaching for a Stingley or a Sauce Gardner here, like, is corner really going to be the game changer or a way to build your franchise? No, you need to protect your quarterback, whoever that's going to be. It's Casario. The Patriots don't have a history of taking big name corners, and when they have them, they don't really care for them. I would be shocked if they didn't go line here if they stay at 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that too.
Jets at 4. Another interesting angle here. Another team, it seems like it's screaming O-line or receiver.
I think this is Sauce Gardner.
Woo!
This is where I think he goes. I think he goes 4 to the Jets. I think he is probably the guy in this draft class that you have to worry the least about as far as translating to the next level. This dude is really good. His size is there, physicality, his feet are awesome, his hands are great. And I think that the Jets have slowly been, they've sunk enough cost in the defensive line to last a lifetime, and they still don't have anything to show for it. Unless, I'm with you. I don't think Thibodeau's a fit in New York. So to me, I think you grab Sauce Gardner, and then I think they take a wide out at 10.
Yeah, it feels like that's what the Jets probably should do. Carl Lawson coming back. He tore his Achilles last year. He'll be back rushing the passer. Get another Darrelle Revis type. That was popular in New York in the past. You think he's better than Stingley? By the way, I actually did want to ask you this. You think Gardner's better than Stingley?
No,
No.
no. I know. I don't care what anybody says. I know what I watched, and that dude locked down. You can point at every NFL roster, and there's a guy that this dude didn't like catch a pass on when he was 18. Jamar Chase didn't play for a year either. That didn't matter.
No, it didn't. But he also didn't have a Liz Frank injury, I don't think, did he?
He didn't run a 4.3 with a 40-inch vertical at his pro day either.
Jets may go Stingley. I mean, he's got some, he's kind of got a little badass in him. But Gardner, Gardner's got a little attitude. I think you're right, though. I think they go cover corner. They may look for O-line, though. I wouldn't be shocked here either. It seems like apparently them and Mekhi Becton are heading towards a divorce already.
Isn't that
Like,
wild?
what the fuck is that about? But I wouldn't be shocked there. They got to go receiver at some point with these assets, but I think 4's too high to go for receiver here. Especially, it's not like Joe Douglas is a terrible GM. He's not an idiot. Just hasn't worked out for him. But I think you're right. It's going to be one of those two positions, corner or line here. And then Giants sticking with the New York team, Tyson, our division rivals. I hope they completely just botch this like they have in the past, but
Just
new
Jake Willis.
regime, unfortunately, Dave Gettleman's not there calling in the card. But there's been some chatter around here from some of the local guys that the Giants are locked in on what's his name, Charles Cross
Yeah.
from Mississippi State. Like they're picking him at 5. If he's there, he's the pick at 5.
And Charles Cross was a guy that we weren't sure was going to go in the first half of round 1 a year ago. And
Yeah.
now everything you read, he's a bona fide, solidified top 10 pick. And it's not just the Giants, right? I mean, if this dude makes it past 5, he's going in the top 10. Somebody's going to take him. For me, when you're drafting what you hope to be a cornerstone offensive lineman for a decade, you like him a little bit more polished, right? You like that Evan Neal mold. But he might be really good. And that's kind of the rub with Charles Cross is like, what position is this guy going to play and how good is he going to be at it? But the floor across the offensive line, is pretty high for this guy. And the ceiling, if he figures it out, is through the roof.
Yeah, apparently they're trying to figure out if they're comfortable with him playing on the right side because Thomas will play the left side. Apparently they are, and Charles Cross is going to be the guy. That's what they're saying because they're nervous, apparently, that the Panthers with the next pick would take him if he's available. I don't think the Panthers can go quarterback here. I mean, this would feel for Kenny Pickett to go 6, for Malik Willis to go 6 it just seems crazy to me. I understand the Pitt connection with David Tepper and the Matt Rule connection that he has with Kenny Pickett, but if you're the Panther, is that like a rookie quarterback with like not great upside, not a high ceiling? That's really what the Panthers need here. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't look to get a Julius Peppers type, Kayvon Thibodeau, if he's still available, or even get an offensive line. Whoever's there, Iquanu, Neal, somebody that's gonna help you as a foundation going forward. They did such a good job trying to build their defense a few years ago. It feels like now the Panthers organization is kind of in a panic, and they're hearing like, "Oh, Matt Rule may not be the guy." Dude, Matt Rule builds programs. You just have to give him time. What are you thinking the Panthers do with this pick here, Tyson?
I think it'll be one of the 3 leftover tackles.
Okay.
It's the quarterbacks in this draft have higher upside than Sam Darnold, and maybe that's what's going to get him to bite on one. But Matt Rule doesn't have much time left in Carolina. He's not going to outlast the quarterback, and you're just putting some poor kid in a horrible situation, which is what bad teams do. So maybe that is the route that they go. I think it'll be one of the leftover tackles. I think Carolina's in a horrible, horrible spot here. I think there's a tier break. There's almost a tier break every pick with this freaking class. It feels like until you get to like 9, and then everybody's the same all the way to like the middle of the second round. This pick is going to be weird because we're going to see, how much does New Orleans like these quarterbacks. Like, what was the extra ammo that you went and got from Philly for? Is it really for Trevor Penning? Because that's stupid. That like you traded an extra first round pick to move up what 6 spots or whatever it was. Um, I mean, this is where I think teams can find value if you really like somebody. Like I was saying, if the quarterback market's going to be dry, then it's going to cost you less to trade up. And if you're in love with Kyle Hamilton, you have to have him. Uh, this is a prime spot.
Speaking of Kyle Hamilton, rumors are Giants are interested in him at 7. I know you like it. You're a lot more high. You're a lot higher on Kyle Hamilton than me. I think he's a little slow. I loved him at Notre Dame, but just like some of the measurables, I'm like, oh man, kind of seen this story before, especially in a Giants uniform. Landon Collins just a little slow for today's game. Back in the day would have been perfect. Not saying that's Kyle Hamilton's type or mold, but I think you may be a little wary here if you're the Giants. I don't know why they wouldn't go O-line. If a Kawanu's on the board again, Neal, like I just don't know like what their teams are going to pick. So it's hard for me to say, well, this guy's available. You pick him. I think they go tackle here. They get their edge rusher, or they got their tackle. I'm sorry. I think they go edge rusher or corner if Stingley's available. It's interesting though. Giants feels like there are holes that they think they need to address, which is O-line, and there's holes that the fans think they need to address, pass rusher. I'm curious what the new regime feels like they need to do with this roster, because you just come in, kind of take a look at it, like, oh, here we need the overall here. We're going to change our defense to this. Wink Martindale is now the new DC, so they're going to have to change their whole defensive scheme. It's interesting. Tyson, what are you hearing about where and who the Giants are going to be selecting?
I mean, I haven't heard anything. I just know that Derek Stingley's the best player left on the board, in my opinion. I know that he would fit really, really well with Wink Martindale, and I know that he has, he's one of the few guys in this class that if they reach that potential, you're talking about a franchise-altering pick here at 7, and I don't think they can afford to let him slip past them because he's not going to go to Atlanta. And I don't know if he'd go to Seattle. And then all of a sudden you have, the Commanders are at 11. The Eagles have plenty of trade up value. Jerry Jones is outside of his mind on draft day, and you never know if he's going to come up and get the guy with character concerns who fell a little bit. I mean, we've seen this movie. So I just don't think that the Giants I mean, I don't know if it's the right pick. It's who I would pick anyways, but I think there has to be a little strategy involved in this. And if you're going to trade out, you better make damn sure that Derek Stingley doesn't make it to some division rival.
And you're hoping it's on our Eagles.
Yeah, I am.
All right, Falcons at 8. Feels as though they need to draft a receiver. We haven't really discussed like before this point. I think Tyson, this is where you kind of highlighted, hey, this could be the run of receivers that we see, kind of this late to early teens. Falcons, there's some rumblings that maybe Malik Willis. Don't need him for now. You got Marcus Mariota, so you can sit him back a little bit. Arthur Smith's a good developer. Marcus Mariota's a good guy to work in front or work behind. I think that's a reach for Malik Willis here. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it. You get 5 years of control. You get to kind of see what you have, but I don't. Maybe you want to replenish the cupboard at receiver. You lose Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley's suspended for the year. I think maybe it kind of depends on what you're looking for, whether you want to go another target guy in Drake London, the 6'4" receiver, really good catcher of the ball. Garrett Wilson, do you want a little more dynamicism? Jamison Williams, I think he's the best receiver in the draft, but like Tyson alluded to, he has a torn ACL. We don't know if he's going to be ready. Then what'd you spend the 8th round, number 8 pick on? I think it's going to be either QB or wide receiver here for the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think Garrett Wilson is the most ready to roll, and I think Garrett Wilson can do the most Calvin Ridley-like things of all the guys that you just mentioned. Because that's the reality. They have to prepare for life after Calvin Ridley. I don't think the dude's ever going to play in the snap of the NFL. And if he does, sweet. And if he doesn't, you got to get ready because, this is a offense just devoid of talent. We're talking this. It's like Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson to run the ball. Kyle Pitts to do all the catching of the football, and then Marcus Mariota to get it. Like it's bad. And I think it's maybe smarter for them. I think if NFL teams are watching the blueprint, and it's easier to get a Russell Wilson and a Matt Stafford and all these guys that are moving around when you already have the weapons are in place, right?
That's
Tom Brady
yeah.
didn't choose the Bucks because he just wanted to go live in Tampa. There was some Pro Bowlers on that roster he wanted to play with, and I think Garrett Wilson is the safest, and I also think that he offers um, potentially. I think he gets open unlike anybody else in this class, which I think will pair really well with Marcus Mariota.
Seahawks, another interesting one. I think they honestly might try to trade out of this pick. I think it'd be smart for them to do. Um, I think you kind of miss like the best lineman, which is what they probably need. You probably at this point are missing the best corners. You're probably missing the best DNs. At this point, just trade down, try to get some draft capital. I don't know if there's a pick at 9 that's really going to help them push them over the edge, especially with their quarterback situation and life after Russell Wilson. You'd think they would want to accumulate some draft capital and start building this thing back up. What they need, though, obviously offensive line. I mean, that's been the issue in Seattle for a long time, but their defense has no dynamic playmakers. Like if there's somebody left and you could be like, hey, this guy can make an impact for us. I think if you can't find a trade partner, I think you got to take him here. It may be a reach, but you got to get somebody back on that defense that's going to make some plays, or it may be like really ugly for the Seahawks next year if they have no playmakers on either side of the ball besides DK Metcalf, who we know, but somebody's got to get the ball to him.
And this is the weird spot with Seattle is none of these quarterbacks offer a solution. We don't even know if any of these guys are better than Drew Lock.
I know.
You're
God,
trying to be
imagine
bad.
saying that
I
sentence.
know. You're trying to be bad, right? I mean, there's no hiding it anymore. They're vying for the 2023 number 1 overall pick. This team sucks. So I mean, we always say BPA, and that's my least favorite term in draft season, best player available, because it's really easy to tell 5 years down the road that who the best player was. But at the time, that's how you end up with a lot of busts because guys are at the top of boards and stuff. I don't think positional value needs to be a factor here. I don't think they need to be thinking about anything besides getting somebody with some juice into any of these rooms. Um, I am clueless as to what position that's going to be at. I know it's not going to be wide out. So that's the only thing I know. I know it's not going to be wide out or center. Everything else is on the table.
And we know, I think here, Jets at 10, I think we know it's going to be wide out. It's just who? Like, Olave to me feels a little bit like a reach here at 10.
Big time.
Jamison Williams, I mean, he's my number 1 receiver. To me, if the Jets can get him, you take him. I don't care about the ACL here. If Garrett Wilson falls to you as well, that's a tough decision between somebody who can play right away in Wilson or Jameson Williams, or even Drake London. If he's available, like, dude, a big target for Zach Wilson, who's, trying to work on his accuracy, but just somebody who can like go and get something up there, kind of be your Mike Williams. Those 3 guys are available, which Tyson and I don't think will be the case. That's a tough decision to choose between. But Jets, it's got to be receiver here.
I think so, and I personally am a big fan of Drake London. I think a lot of what you're reading right now is he struggles to separate and all this stuff. If you go watch the film, Keldon Slovis was 4 yards behind him with the football, so there's your separation issue right there. That guy was fighting his quarterback just as much as he was fighting to get open. I think he pairs really well with Elijah Moore, and I don't think this is another thing. I don't think Drake London makes it past 11 to the Commanders. Um, I think this
Wow.
dude is going to go really high in the draft because 88 catches in 8 games, sounds great. But when you go watch the film, some of them are flare routes underneath, just trying to get your best player the ball. But some of the stuff this guy can do after the catch is not normal for somebody that's that big, and apparently that's slow, right? Where he's running slow 40 times and all that stuff. Treylon Burks had the best line ever after the combine. He ran a 4.55. And they said, well, we thought you were going to tear this up. What's going on? He said, well, nobody's ever caught me. So some of this stuff, if we have years of production, and I think he'd pair well with Zach Wilson. I like Drake London a lot. And I think that if Drake London goes to the Jets and Zach Wilson takes the jump I think he's going to take, then Drake London is a safe pick. But if
Okay.
Drake London goes to the Commanders and Carson Wentz is his quarterback and he has a horrible organization around him, I think Drake London is a bust.
Hmm. Interesting eval there, Tyson. I like that. All right. Well, that's our top 10. We kind of wanted to run through it, get whet your appetites a little bit here as we get going. Obviously, Thursday is going to be packed with a ton of stuff going on. All 32 teams picking, or there'll be 32 picks. I forget who even has it, who doesn't. Rams obviously don't. They don't have one until your kids are in college, Tyson.
Yep.
Um,
Niners
most
don't.
Niners don't. Yeah, most interesting teams to watch though. Let's get this going a little here. I mean, we talked about the Jets. To me, they're one of my most fascinating teams to watch. I mean, they have an opportunity here to really get some talent into this organization and help out their young quarterback. Whether they decide that's on the O-line, whether they say, hey, let's just focus on defense, or like, hell, maybe we just spend 2 of these picks on receivers. Like, let's just see what Wilson is. Let's just get elite talent. And if he's not the guy, well, then we're going to have picks next year and we can go get a quarterback next year as well. I'm intrigued by the Jets. They're definitely someone I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I actually kind of have a soft spot for the Jets too. So, doesn't help that's the case either.
I got a couple. I think I've mentioned the Eagles a couple times throughout here. I really do think that they're going to be. First of all, Philly is always one of the movers on draft day. It's very rare that Howie Roseman's going to sit at the spot that he was awarded. And I don't know if that's the right word because, it's sitting at the draft spot that he's at. I think they're going to move. I think that the Saints are one to watch, but I just have this suspicion that Treylon Burks is going to slide all the way down to 24, and Jerry Jones is going to be on the clock. And the Arkansas connection, the fact that they lost Cooper, we don't actually know what Gallup is. He's everybody's favorite what if right now. James Washington, we've seen that movie. That guy stinks. I think that there's a chance that Jerry reaches and takes Treylon over other big positions in need here.
No, Jerry's good for that. That's for sure.
Do you see what he said the other day? He said that Stephen Jones picked
Yeah, I saw he
Taco, and
threw his son under the bus.
Like,
What the hell is that?
yeah, that was I'm sure that Thanksgiving and stuff is really fun for those guys.
Yeah, I cut you off, Tyson. I don't know if the audience could hear, but to tell them what you're saying.
Oh, I just said I think Thanksgiving is probably really fun for those guys.
No, I mean, for what he said at the press conference.
Oh, he said Stephen Ross picked his son. He said pick Taco Charlton, and the Parsons pick was his. And Taco Charlton tweeted back a gif of him crying into a bunch of money.
So unbelievable. Such Jerry Jones. He's ready for draft day. That's for sure. Another one here, Tyson, who we both think the Eagles fleeced here, but the New Orleans Saints, pick 16, pick 19. They seem like they're sitting on Jameis. I mean, are they going to go up and get one of these guys? Like, that would make no sense. Like, what are they going to get? A receiver maybe to replace Michael Thomas, who became an issue. Like, I don't know why they made that trade. I'm keeping an eye on them. That's interesting to me, kind of like what they have cooking up there in New Orleans.
It's got to me, if they stay put, it's got to be Trevor Penning and Chris Olave. And that doesn't seem like a great reward for all the capital they gave up to move to this spot. So, like, the only thing I can think of is that they think that somebody's going to take a quarterback that's going to piss off the existing starter, and then they're going to have a shot because Jameis is fine, but you're not fooling anybody with Jameis Winston. We're not going into the season like the Saints could win the whole thing.
Yeah.
They got to do something because this is, they were the Aints for a long time, and we don't remember. Drew Brees kind of saved this organization. He's not here anymore. Sean Payton's not here anymore. Your roster sucks, and you need a lot of help. And to give up the capital they gave up, I mean, I think that could be a top 10 pick that they traded to move up to 16. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. I'm interested to see kind of last one here, Tyson, that I'm going to be paying attention to is the Chiefs. I'm intrigued if they're going to actually stay on 29 and 30. The two first round picks. I mean, do they want to go up and get somebody to replace Tyreek Hill? Do they trade just down, wait for somebody to get desperate? Okay, we get a little nervous, trade back up. with Pat Mahomes' massive contract, they're going to have to start getting players through the draft and not free agency. I want to see what they do. Like, where do they think they need to address the needs after they didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year? After they're going to have to start supporting this Patrick Mahomes contract in a different way. Travis Kelce's getting older. They moved on from Tyreek Hill. I want to see exactly what they have cooking up there as well.
If they don't trade up, I think they take defense twice in a row, and the internet explodes. That's what I mean. If they're going to be picking at that spot, I could see Jahan Dotson. Like maybe if you're going to take a wide receiver there, but like this team's got a lot more holes on it than we're pretending that they do.
Any bets you got, Tyson? I know we were talking about this. Unfortunately, New York legislators want me making money off this thing, but I know you're looking at a few, and maybe we can discuss a little bit for the people out there just real quick as we kind of close this little NFL draft special out.
So I think that it's a worthwhile bet to bet the over for the wide receivers.
In the first round?
I'm not sure that number is going to get to 7, but I've seen some people saying, "Oh, it's only going to be 4." It's not going to be 4. It's going to be more than 4. With the way the NFL contracts have exploded, right? Because the draft is all about positional value everywhere, and now wide receiver is a premium position as far as contracts go. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I don't know what book you can bet this on, but Breece Hall is going to the Texans in the second round, and Kenneth Walker is going to the Jets in the second round. And I don't think any running back gets picked in the first round. There will not be a first round tight end. You can't make any money on that one, but that's just a guarantee if you wanted to make your FanDuel account look a little better. Toss something in there. And then I think the over on defensive players is at 15.5, and I think that over is going to hit. I think that the talent on the offensive side of the ball in this draft class is going to kind of shove some of those guys down the board. I think we're going to see an offensive lineman maybe every 5 picks, something like that, and a wide receiver and maybe a quarterback sprinkled in here and there, but the rest is going to be defense.
Interesting. That's a sharp angle. I like that a lot. One I was looking at for sure, Trayvon Walker. One, I would lay it even at 200 right now. I mean, it feels like it's risky with the Jags, but I mean, what owner comes out and this is like, yeah, this is the dysfunction going on in our organization. I like this guy, he likes that guy, and he likes that guy. Wow, look at us. It's like you guys are morons. I'd still lay it a little bit here. It feels like that's going to be the play, and then Hutchinson, number 2 overall pick. Maybe if you can exact those together, that feels like the safest thing because anything after that is just a crapshoot. We have no clue what the Texans are going to do. Anything regarding quarterback, I think Willis will be the first QB taken. I think he's the favorite right now. It feels like somebody's going to try to take him, whether it's early or whether he falls early down to Pittsburgh. Those are the 2 I was eyeing, just scrolling through everything. And I like over 6.5 receivers as well in the first round. Would have loved it a lot more if it was still at that 5.5 number, but I think 6.5 is safe. I'm with you there.
I do think for the quarterbacks, I think this is the funny part about draft season is this is a better class than the EJ Manuel class, and that had 3 guys go in the first round.
I know.
And there's a real world where Desmond Ridder or Sam Howell, somebody in that tier of quarterbacks, goes 32 to the Lions, right? And then that's going to mess up all your over-under props because they, if they get Hutchinson at number 2, they have so much goodwill with the fans. They could draft, whoever. They could draft Bailey Zappi if they want to, and the fans will be fine with it. This is this is the time of year where we talk about how important quarterback is, and then we forget until Thursday, the first round of the NFL draft, and then we're immediately reminded.
Yeah, exactly. Like somebody's going to trade up with like the Texans and take somebody. We're like, what? Oh yeah, that's right. It's a quarterback.
I think that if you're going to bet the top 3, I think the order that I would go with to bet would be Walker, Hutchinson, Neal.
Somebody flops with the Texans if they don't take them. Somebody goes up and gets them because he likes.
Because I think that if Houston doesn't trade out, I think Evan Neal is a really, really safe pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, hear it all the time, and it's such bullshit. But the Bama Patriots pipeline, it's going to continue until the end of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, that's very sharp. Anything else, Tyson, that we want to leave the viewers with before Thursday?
I don't think so. Go Suns.
Go Suns. Absolutely. We got some pretty heavy futures on that. Pretty heavy positions on them. I don't think it's time to take the Mavs in that series. I don't think I want to hedge against them because like what you said, we've seen the blueprint before. It may be smarter just go game to game Mavs as our positions settle.
I mean, I'm thinking about trying to get back in at the end of round one if Phoenix gets through this.
Especially because Golden State's now the favorite in the West.
I'm thinking of going back in and trying to double dip because if
I might
Booker
too.
comes back, nobody's beating this team.
Yeah,
I,
I might
I
too.
just I
And he
don't.
just got a little rest. Yeah, I know his hamstrings injured, but yeah,
The Celtics could beat this team. I mean, I said it, 3 weeks ago or whatever. I had the Bucks, Suns, and Celtics as the only teams I thought could win the title, and still true. But Golden State looks damn good.
that's a fact. That is a fact. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to our draft podcast. We'll keep the NBA talk going as well. As always, like the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube if you watch us there. Subscribe as well so you don't miss a thing. Share it with your friends. Whether it's on Instagram, following us at the Roundtable Pod _ our TikTok now at same thing _ the Roundtable Pod _ or feel free to follow us on the old fashioned Twitter machine as well at TRT _ pod. We are available there. Contact us
Verify
at
us,
any
Elon.
time. We got some good shit coming out. We're ready to rock. And we will speak to you all next time. Till next time, everybody. Peace.